So I've had another question about splitting the inputs on the 2-box Drumit5 module, and so most of these toms, the snares, a lot of the cymbal inputs, so they're all everything except the kick is a stereo input on the module. So each of these input cables will have these 2 black lines here, which is one for each trigger in each pad. So you've got the rim trigger and then the head trigger. So when you hit a pad, like this snare pad, it'll say here pad 12 as the type of pad. When you hit the rim, it'll say rim, and it can pick up which one you're hitting, obviously. So if you want to split the sounds, because like automatically, if I choose a different sound, I'll try and find a ride, which is probably back here. Yeah. God, here they are. So if I hit this trigger, so this is the edge of the cymbal or the bow, and this is obviously triggering the bell. So as you change through the samples, the 2 samples, one for the stereo sample set or signal, are split automatically. It's like they're linked together. So for, every different sound you dial up, they're linked. So if you want to split them, so if we go back to a snare here, bamboo snare, I'll just turn that up a little bit. So to split those, you can see the snare light is lit up. Gee, I just noticed how dusty the module is. So yeah, you can see if I wipe the dust off, you can see that the snare light is lit up. So all you do is hold down the more button, press the snare button, and you'll hear the snare trigger. And this goes back to saying nothing, like there's no sound assigned. So if I pull up a sound, maybe like a tom, now you should find that one of these is a tom. So if I change that to a china, and you can, any different kind of combination that you want. So if you want to take it back to the original, so the original would be just the rim for that snare or a rim shot. You just wind it back to 0 until it shows nothing. And that will reset it. So regarding splitting pads or adding cymbals or whatever, in this case we'll use this one as an example. So this pad's not plugged in at the moment. There's the cable that should be going into the module, but it's not. It's just coming out of the back here, and just the end of it is sitting here, so that's not triggering anything. I'll just turn this down a little bit. So that's obviously a ride bell at the moment. If I press the unit button, the kit button, and press page down, it'll show you there that it's a ride. So I might change that to something like a snare. So the cable from this pad is a stereo cable, and it's going from there into one of these. So here, snare 2, that's my second snare. So that's the first snare drum, that's my second snare. So that's where that plugs into the module here, and it says on the front obviously snare. So the one underneath it is a kick, which I'm not using because the kick is plugged in to that module over there. So all you need to do, unplug the pad that you want to split, and you want to add a splitter cable like this, which is just a stereo 1/4 inch jack to 2 stereo mono outputs, I guess, or inputs depending. And you just want to plug that splitter into that input. So now whatever you plug in to these is going in to that input, which is the snare drum. So we'll add the original plug back in to one of them. So that's plugged in there. And we'll add this second drum to the other one. So now we've got the original pad and the new pad plugged into the splitter. And now when I play these, I'll just dial that back to 0. So it should be the snare and the rim shot of the snare. So it's basically the one sample set like we were looking at before, except now we've split it between 2 pads, and we can go through the same sequence to change that rim sound so that, you know, each pad has a different sound. So all we do is hit this second pad, same thing again, hold down the more button, press the snare button, this will go blank, and then you just dial in the sound that you want. So let's use a splash. Obviously that would be better if this was a cymbal pad, but all the pads and cymbals work the same. You know, in the cymbal pads, you're just taking out that lead there and adding that to the one of these inputs on the splitter. So that's pretty much how you split pad sounds, and you can dial in any sort of combination that you want. And yeah, but there's plenty of guys and girls on the 2-box forum, which is online, and you know, they've helped me a lot to work out a lot of the problems with this kit. And yeah, so jump on that if you got any questions, or shoot me a question, and I'll probably jump online to the forum and ask them. So yeah, they're a helpful bunch, and that's where I learned some of this stuff. So it was a little bit frustrating at first before you learn this, but once you've got this stuff sort of down, it's all pretty simple, as you can see. It's just working it out that's the hard bit. So with these, well, with the kit of this size, which I'll just try and fit it in to the shot a little better. So it's got, you know, it's a, well, what is it? It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an 8-piece sort of standard kit with an extra snare drum, and then I've got another drum here which I might use for timpani or some other kind of percussion sound, sometimes an extra tom. So it's just 3 rack toms, 3 floor toms, kick in the snare, second snare. The cymbals are China over on the far left, another China over on the far right, which are these Alesis pads, which seem to work quite good. And I've got the first set of hi-hats, which go to this module, and then the second set of hi-hats, which go to this module. The racks are split up, so these 2 go to this one. The remaining 4 toms go into this module. So there's 4 crashes. Ride, 2 splashes. And with this many drums and cymbals, I've pretty much used up all of the inputs on both modules. I've got one free spot, which is the kick input. So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 10 inputs. I'm using 10 in that module and 9 in this module. None of them are split, they're all just running in stereo except for this one, which we just set up for this video, which I'll undo in a minute. But yeah, essentially on the standard kit you can split your toms so that instead of using the rim sounds, which I don't use very much, or if at all, you split the rim sounds. You could really add 4 extra cymbals if you've got 4 toms. And the same, like a crash, you want to use both inputs on this. You wouldn't want to split a crash because you've got the sort of sound at the top and then the sound on the edge. And if you split that, you'll only get 1 of those. So it might be alright if you didn't want this sound or that ability to be able to do that. If you just wanted it to be a crash, you could split it. But splashes you can split without too much problem because you're not really, it's the same sound, I think. So even though that's plugged in using a stereo cord into a stereo input, I think the pad itself has only got 1 trigger, which is kind of a waste of an input on the module. Technically, you probably, if you got the money to add an extra pad and an extra stand, it'd be worth splitting that. So I could essentially split that. I could split that one. I could split the 6 toms and probably this drum as well, depending on what sound's on it. So even a kit of this size, I could split the chinas, the splashes and the toms, which is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's another 10 pads I could add to this kit. So yeah, hope that helps somebody, and see you later.